السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد, جزاكم الله خير, my dear respect brothers and sisters. Inshallah, we're going to be continuing during the month of Ramadan around this time, بإذن ta'ala, to talk about Fiqh of Worshipping. Okay. And in the past, we discussed many subjects. We talked about, for instance, how to pray, what's the pillars of wudu, what is recommended for us to do for wudu. We talked about the types of water, and we talked about different conditions in which that it's pretty much applicable to many Muslims. But today we're going to be talking about a subject that maybe we have not introduced in the past. We're talking about Maseh. Okay, Maseh. What is Maseh? Okay. Maseh, it's in Arabic mean to wipe, okay? And this is one of the permissions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given us. This part of the greatness of our religion, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given us a permission in which that we could utilize when it's applicable. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants to make things easy for us, and He does not want to make things difficult on the human being. And part of that He's allowed masih, which is wiping, that we're allowed to wipe our socks in preparation for wudu, during wudu, for us to pray bidnillah ta'ala. And this is something that is extremely applicable when it comes to certain people, especially in the time of winter, since sometimes the cold water can be harmful for some people, and people sometimes find it difficult to wash their feet during winter because of the fact that water can be very, very cold. And that's part of the permissions that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have given us, that He's allowed us to wipe in certain conditions. So today, bidnillah ta'ala, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to talk about wiping our feet. What is the conditions for it? When is it permissible? What is the length of time? And etc. Okay. So when do we do that? So the thing is, brothers and sisters, when someone, for instance, is making wudu, okay, and he's allowed to wear socks. He's allowed to wear socks on after he have washed his feet. He's allowed to wear his socks after he washed his feet. So after you wash your feet during wudu, you're allowed to wear socks. Now after you wore those socks, you're allowed to wipe on them. You're allowed to wipe on them. So you made wudu, you wash your feet during wudu, and you wore your socks afterward. So you wore your socks while you have wudu. Okay. So instead of the fact that instead of every time you're making wudu, you have to take off your socks and wash your feet. No, Islam allowed us that if you wore your socks while you have wudu, you're allowed to wipe over your socks next time you make wudu. Okay? Next time you make wudu, when you wore your socks on purification, on the state of purification, you're allowed to wipe your socks next time you make wudu. Now the question is for how long we're allowed to do this? Okay. So the thing is, if you are a traveler, if let's say you are traveling, you're allowed to make it for 3 days. You're allowed to make it for how long? For 3 days. Okay. And if you are not traveling, you're allowed to make it for 24 hours. 24 hours. Okay. So for instance, the 24 hours from the first time you make maseh. From 24 hours from the first time you make maseh. So let me give you an example. Let's say I prayed Fajr. Okay, I prayed what? Fajr. And next time, and around Dhuhr time, so when I prayed Fajr, I wore my socks. When I prayed Fajr, I wore my socks on the state of wudu. Okay. And around Dhuhr time, I wiped over them. I continued to wear my socks, and on Dhuhr time, I wiped over them. Okay. So for how long I'm allowed to wear my socks 24 hours from Dhuhr time, not from Fajr. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. Does that make sense, Halima, Ibrahim? Okay. So it's 24 hours from the what? From the time from the first time I wiped over them. Okay. And the same thing applies when you are making when you're a traveler. This is but 3 days instead. Okay. And what indicates that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, and there's a hadith of Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, إن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم جعل 3 أيام ولياليهن للمسافر ويوما وليلة للمقيم. That Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم, he made 3 nights or 3 days for a person who is traveling to make masih, and one day, a day and a night time, or 24 hours for a person who is settled, who's not traveling. Okay. So now let's talk about the conditions. Okay. When we're allowed to make masih, is it just all the time? Okay. So the very first condition that you must wear uh, your socks, okay, on the state of tahara. So you can't wear your socks while you're not you don't have tahara, you don't have wudu. So you have to wear the socks. Number one, you have to wear the socks on the state of tahara. So you have to be having tahara, meaning that you have wudu. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, okay, the socks have to be covering, meaning that, for instance, I can't have a big hole in the sock and then consider that it's applicable. No, the sock have to be completely covering, and there is a difference in opinion on the thickness of the socks, but we're gonna say an average sock, meaning socks that is not transparent. Meaning. You could cover the foot. Okay. Sometimes you have these socks where like almost you could see the feet. I think in this situation it does not really. It's not. These socks does not do it. It's not good to be considered covering. So we talk about an average sock. An average sock, no, not cover. You cannot see your feet. Okay, and does not have any humongous holes. Okay, so as long as you wear them on the state of wudu, and as long as the sock is covering and it's not transparent, then it's fine. Okay. Now the third thing is the sock have to be pure, and it have to be clean. Meaning, what does it mean? Meaning clean. Like for instance, it doesn't have to be najis. Like it doesn't have it doesn't have any urine on it, or sometimes the sock does not have any sort of impurification. Meaning like it doesn't have any. Like for instance, blood of a pig, or it's not like made out of the leather of a pig or leather of a donkey. Okay, that sort of thing. So as long as the sock is pure and clean, it's fine. Okay, that's the third condition. Okay, the fourth condition, أن يكون المسح في المدة المحدودة شرعا, that you are allowed to make masih on the allowed time, meaning that if you cannot make masih more than 3 days if you are a traveler, and you cannot make masih on a sock more than 1 day if you are not traveling. Because a lot of time, what happens? Some people you see them like they wear socks for especially in the time of winter. You'll see people who wear socks for a long time. Like 2 days, and you're not traveling. Then whatever salah that you have prayed is invalid, because you passed the deadline. So what happened, for instance, when you reach the deadline, take off your socks, make a full wudu with washing your feet, and then you would wear the socks again. No problem. Okay, and then you have another day of wiping. Okay, but maybe it's better that you make it into routine. Like for instance, let's say I know that every day I'm going to be wearing socks. Okay, no problem, and every day my socks, the masih for my socks would expire around dhuhr time. So every time on dhuhr I would make a full wudu, so you would not forget. Okay, unless you remember what time you wear them, so it would not be you would not be suspicious of when you wear them. So it's easier for you to set a time for you, or possibly you could maybe, I mean, for people who have reminders in their phone, they could make yourself a reminder or something along those lines. Okay, but the point is that what, that past that line, past that deadline, your wudu is invalid. And so if wudu is invalid, what's going to happen to your salah? Your salah is invalid. So this is when it comes to yani, danger zone, because sometimes, yani, subhanallah, you could be praying and your salah is invalid because you don't have wudu. Okay, so it's important to, yeah, yani, it's encouraged to take advantage of this permission from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it's almost also important not for us to abuse it, because you see a lot of people, unfortunately, they would abuse that permission. Okay, so this is something that is extremely important, brothers and sisters, that don't overpass the deadline, otherwise your salah would become invalid. Okay, now what would invalidate your your masih, or make it invalid? Okay, number one, for instance, if someone made was in a state of higher like we said there is a greater tahara and there is lesser tahara. So some of us, for instance, like in a man who slept with his wife, okay, he had to wash all of his body. So meaning that at that time, what happened? He would take off his socks. So a man is sleeping with his wife. That's number one. Second thing is, if the deadline have passed, meaning that after 1 day, if you are not traveling, or after 3 days, then your this will invalidate your masih. That's number two. Number three, if you took off your sock, like for instance, if I took off my sock, خلاص, then you cannot make masih, obviously, yeah, for obvious reasons. So if you take off your socks, and how about, so let me ask you guys a question. Who should I ask? Halima, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's say, I want you to think now, okay?
Okay.
Let's say I took off my socks while I'm making wudu.
Okay.
Okay? I took off my socks while I'm making wudu. Like, so I make wudu, okay? I took off my socks, okay? And then I wore them back again, but I did not break my wudu. Is that okay?
Uh, yes.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you so much. That's great. So if I re-wore my socks again and I still have wudu, then it's fine. Now, another scenario. I wore my socks on tahara, and then I took off my socks. Then I broke my tahara. I went to the bathroom or something, and I re-wore my sock. Is that allowed?
No.
No, because I wore it in the state of antahara. Then here it's not valid. Okay, so the point here is that if you took off your socks, and you lost your wudu, خلاص, you have to make wudu again for you to wear it again. So again, the third condition is when you take off your socks, you cannot make masah again. That's for obvious reasons. Okay. So here we're talking about masah. Okay, what is masah? What would invalidate your masah, and when is masah will become permissible, okay, or not permissible. Okay, there is another situation that is like masah. It's called jabira. What's called what? Jabira. Jabira comes from the word jabara, okay, which is what to heal the bone. Like for instance, if someone have broken his leg or his arm, you know, the way you attach the bones together, they call it in Arabic jabr. Okay, you would realign the bones to make them heal. Okay, so this is when we make masih on a broken extremity. Okay, so let's say some. So here, what are we talking about? Like for instance, if someone have broken his leg, billah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of you guys. if someone have broken his if someone have broken his foot, okay, and they have casted it. Um, uh, do you have to take off the cast? You have to take off the cast so you could make wudu? No. So almost the same thing apply to it. Almost the same thing apply to it, in which that you're allowed to make masih on the jabira, on the cast. Okay. Now, but there are different conditions that apply to the cast, as unlike the socks. Okay. So, like for instance, um, um, you know, the very first thing is that, the very first question is, are you allowed to make wiping on the cast? Yeah, yes, you're allowed. No question asked. Okay. And the same thing would apply to any part of the body that is being harmed. Like for instance, you have a big bandage. If you have, for instance, you have you have a strain, and you have, for instance, you banded your leg, or you banded your wrist, or you banded your arm. Okay, are you allowed to make masah on it? Yes, you're allowed. Okay, yes, you're allowed. Now, um, is masah on the jabira, or on the cast, or the harmful, the extremity, or the part of the body that's being harmed, is it in is does it يعني give you permission not to wash it? Yes, it does, but that part only, that part only. And obviously, and if you like, for instance, let's say someone have a big cut, for instance, and he have a big bandage, like for والعياذ بالله, like all over his palm. Does he have to take all of the bandage? No. He could just wash everything else except that bandage. He would make masah over that bandage, because he wants to give time for this small wound or this big wound to heal. You understand? Okay. So now, now we're talking about the differences between jabira, if someone is being harmed, versus socks. Okay. Do I have to wear the bandage or the cast on the state of tahara? No, no. Why is that? Because this happened under situations where you are forced. You did not ask for yourself to have a broken bone, or you did not ask yourself to have a cut. What happened, you were forced to go through this situation. So sometimes, a lot of times, because of the fact that you have a cut, you have to bend it very quickly, or you have a broken bone, you have to cast it very quickly. And people at that time, they're not thinking whether the bone is whether you are making wudu or not. It doesn't matter at the situation. So a lot of times, when it comes to these situations, you don't have to wear the bandage, or you have to bandage your wrist, or your arm, or your legs, or you casted any part of your body. It doesn't have to be on the state of tahara. It does not have to be in the state of tahara. Okay, and that's the difference here. Okay. Now, another question: does the wiping over the cast, or the cut, or the bandage, does it is it for a restricted amount of time, just like the socks? Because of the fact that we said for the socks, you are allowed for 1 day if you are not traveling, and 3 days if you are not traveling. No, you're not allowed. There is no specific time. You could wipe, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of you. You could wipe if you have a cast for 3 months continuously. It's okay, no problem. Okay, no problem. You could wipe over that cut, or that big bandage, for as long you have that cut, or they have that bandage. Okay, so that's another thing. So now, going back now, what is the difference? Again, because we have to emphasize these things. Okay, what is the difference between wiping over the socks, versus wiping over al jabira, over a cast, or a bandage, or a roller? Number one, okay, the maseh or the wiping over الخفين, over a sock, is for a specific amount of time. Is for a specific amount of time, meaning that if you're a traveler, 3 days, and if you're not, 1 day. For the jabira, for the cast, is as long as you have it. As long as you have it. So that's number 1. Okay. Number 2. Okay. The jabira, the broken body, or the harmful the harmful extremity or body part, is not, it can be anywhere in the body. Like, meaning that it could be an eye, it could be a nose, it could be an arm, it could be a leg. It's not specified to one location, like the sock. The sock. Where can we wipe over the socks? Can we wear the socks in our hands? No, it's only over our feet, right? So so wiping over the sock is in a specific location, only your feet. But when it comes to jabira, it can be anywhere in the body, wherever your body is being harmed. And it could be a shoulder, it could be, no shoulder, you don't make wudu over the shoulder. Yeah. It could be an elbow, it could be a wrist, it could be a hand, it could be a foot, it could be a head, it could be anywhere in your body. Okay? So that's number 2. Number 3, when we wear the socks, you must wear it on the state of tahara, right? You must wear the sock on the state of tahara. But when it comes to the jabira, you not necessarily have to have it or wear it in the state of tahara. Okay, so that's number 3. And number 4, and that's the last thing. Okay, the jabira, you're allowed to wipe it when you have lesser, and when you have al-hadath al-akbar or al-hadath al-asghar. Like, for instance, if someone have to take a shower, like, let's say someone slept with his women, and he has to take a shower, then he can wipe. And if he went to the bathroom, he always can wipe. This when it comes to the jabira. But when it comes to the socks, no. When it comes to the socks, when it comes to the hadath al-akbar, when you have a greater impurification, then you have to take off your socks. You can't wipe off your socks when you must make ghusl. Like, for instance, let's say a woman, she passed her monthly period, and she has to take a shower. She can make wiping over her foot. She has to take a shower and take off the socks. Okay, so that's the 4 differences when it comes to the difference between jabira and when you have a broken bone part, and when you have when you are wearing socks. So this is what I have for you for today with Allah Ta'ala. We talked about jabira and we talked about masih. And if there is any questions or concerns, we're more than happy to answer any of them with Allah Ta'ala. So there is a question here. Mother is asking, does this advice depends on what madhab? For example, I am a Maliki madhab. Will this advice be applicable? Yeah, we were talking about what has been consensus over all the scholars. Does it matter what madhab you take? This is pretty much applicable to all the Muslims, inshallah. Applicable to all the Muslims. We're not talking about the difference of madhab. Here we're talking about what's applicable to all Muslims, what Muslims have consensus on. Alhamdulillah. Any questions from our students? Rima, Halima, Ibrahim, Mutab, Maryam, any questions? Okay, khair, inshallah. So if there is no questions, inshallah, we'll end with this very short lesson, easy breezy. And inshallah, we'll see you guys with Allah Ta'ala next week around the same time, 5:30 p.m. Jazakumullah khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Excellent.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, sir.
Matab, ma'am, I am Matab, ma'am. Just